Generating spontaneous, grammatically complex speech under pressure is one of the highest cognitive hurdles a language learner faces. The brain is forced to simultaneously source vocabulary, construct syntax, and maintain a coherent narrative arc. High-level linguistic performance often relies less on pure improvisation and more on a speaker's ability to populate predefined syntactic structures with specific variables. To see exactly how this works, we are going to dissect a specific 4-part linguistic framework designed to describe media consumption, like a video or a podcast. This matrix is built on 4 distinct functional nodes: introduction, description, experience, and feeling. It operates on the principle of lexical chunking. By utilizing fixed phrasal templates, strings of words that always stay the same, the speaker builds a permanent grammatical scaffolding. When transitional phrases are memorized and locked in, they eliminate the need to calculate basic grammar on the fly, actively freeing up working memory. With the structural heavy lifting handled by the matrix, a speaker can redirect their cognitive energy toward deploying advanced, high-scoring variable vocabulary. Looking specifically at the first functional node, the pastel pink introduction quadrant demands immediate topic identification. The first variable we need to plug in is the temporal marker. Next, we input the action variable. This establishes what the speaker was doing right before they consumed the media. Grammatically, this slot requires the past continuous tense. We combine an auxiliary verb with a present participle, for example, was scrolling or was looking. We place this continuous background action directly against the simple past tense of the primary event, the exact moment you stumbled upon the video. Interlocking these 2 tenses prevents the introduction from reading like a static list of facts. It creates a dynamic timeline where a continuous action is interrupted by a specific event. The precise intersection of these time and action variables maps out the exact environmental parameters for the rest of the description. Executing this initial module correctly signals to an examiner that the speaker has the mechanical control required to construct narrative context using complex, overlapping verb tenses. Moving into the second phase, the mint green quadrant dictates the rules for summarizing objective content, distinctly separating facts from subjective opinion. The primary input here is the focal variable. This slot requires the speaker to distill the entire premise of the video down into a single, concise noun phrase. Once the core premise is established, the framework requires a secondary linguistic input, the specific detail variable. This specific detail slot functions as a strategic opportunity to deploy high-precision vocabulary. Instead of simply naming an element, the speaker slots in compound adjectives and nouns like stunning cinematic visuals or incredibly clear explanation. To connect these details, the structure uses a non-negotiable pivot, the transition clause. Furthermore, the creator explained that this pivot moves the speech away from describing aesthetics and into the realm of reporting facts. The final variable in this module requires the speaker to articulate a key takeaway derived from the content, such as a concept about human psychology or productivity. Ultimately, this module acts as an objective data processor. It demonstrates the speaker's capacity to take complex media, break it down, and organize hierarchical information systematically.
In the third phase, the powder blue quadrant shifts the analysis away from external facts and entirely onto the internal, behavioral reaction of the viewer. The module begins with a mandatory template phrase, stating the viewer was completely engrossed in the content, which explicitly signals the transition into subjective experience. The speaker must then fill an action slot using past tense verbs to describe their physical engagement with the media, such as jotting down notes or replaying the best parts. This quadrant functions to articulate how the content made difficult information accessible. To do this, the latter half of the module forces the speaker into a causal structure. The template asserts that the video broke a complex process down into bite-sized pieces. The phrase "making it" establishes a direct grammatical link between the creator's pedagogical method and the viewer's own comprehension. That causal link culminates in the final variable slot, which must be filled with a specific descriptive adjective, like visually stimulating or easy to digest. Explicitly linking physical, behavioral actions to the complexity of the content in this way demonstrates higher-order logical reasoning and cause-and-effect grammatical structures. The final functional node is the pale yellow quadrant, which governs the subjective evaluation and lasting consequence phase of the response. The primary emotional variable requires the speaker to upgrade from basic descriptors to high-level emotive vocabulary. You input mind-blown or inspired instead of a basic word like happy. This emotion must tether to a justification starting with because, connecting the feeling to a practical skill gained. This leads to the advanced conditional consequence structure. If I hadn't come across this content, I would probably still be, requires a mixed conditional tense. Grammatically, you are combining a past perfect condition with a present continuous result, illustrating a hypothetical present state based on an altered past. Deploying a conditional structure at the end of a response significantly elevates the assessed grammatical range. The response then terminates with a final summary variable, stating that the video left a lasting impression, serving as a definitive narrative anchor. Concluding a sequence with a complex hypothetical scenario demonstrates the ability to manage sophisticated grammatical layers, fulfilling the requirements for high-level structural assessment. Stepping back from the microscopic syntactic analysis, we can view the macro structure of the entire framework. Looking at the completed system, data flows chronologically across the matrix. The narrative moves sequentially from immediate context mapping to objective detailing, through behavioral tracking, and finally arriving at subjective evaluation. Structural cohesion in spoken language is achieved through this systematic progression between nodes, rather than through random thought generation. By mastering the transition points between these four structural blocks, a speaker ensures lexical diversity while maintaining a logical narrative thread. This method suggests that complex speech can be made more manageable by treating it as a rigorous, pre-built system, allowing the speaker to focus entirely on providing precise variable inputs. This linguistic framework and methodology are provided by the IELTS FOCUS.